Corin suit alarms screamed as the asteroid storm hit without warning. Rocks the size of cars spun past him, crashing into debris fields from ancient shipwrecks. Sparks erupted around his visor. His heart hammered. One wrong move and he would be crushed or flung into the void. He gritted his teeth and activated his magnetic thrusters, pushing himself toward the nearest target, a massive, drifting shape that didn't belong to the wreckage. It was a ship, but nothing like he'd ever seen. Smooth, curved lines, glowing panels embedded along its hull. The metal seemed almost alive, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Corin's mind raced. "What is this?" he muttered, gripping a stabilizer bar. He noticed jagged cracks along the ship's flank, energy sparking from within. If it ruptured fully, the ship would explode, sending him spinning into the asteroid field. He had to act now. Corin tethered himself to the hull and examined the fractures. Standard repairs wouldn't hold, he'd have to improvise. Reaching into his pack, he pulled out magnetic clamps, flexible welding rods, and a handful of nanofiber patches. The storm rattled his helmet, but he forced calm. One clamp, one weld at a time. His hands shook, but he focused. Each minor spark he fixed felt like a victory, like the ship was responding to him. Then a low vibration ran through the hull beneath him. It was subtle at first, almost musical. Corin froze. The panels pulsed again as if breathing. He pressed his palm against the smooth surface. The vibration grew warmer, almost sentient. "No, it can't be alive," he whispered. His pulse quickened. The storm didn't just threaten him. Whatever the ship was, it might notice him. A shadow swept over the hull, bigger than any asteroid. Corin's head snapped up. A massive clawed hand rested against the ship, fingertips pressing lightly but firmly. His stomach dropped. The creature attached to the hand emerged from the shadows, wings folded but enormous, scales shimmering faintly in the reflected light of distant stars. Its head was high, elegant, blindfolded, and somehow intelligent. A low growl rolled in the air and through his suit speakers. Corin swallowed. "I'm not here to harm you," he said aloud, hoping words mattered in space. The creature tilted its head. Then, without warning, a voice echoed in his mind, not words but feeling, emotion, a question laced with authority. "You dare touch me?" Corin staggered back, tether taut, gasping. He had no choice. If he left, the hull would rupture, the storm would finish him. If he stayed, he faced an unknown intelligence far beyond human understanding. Steeling himself, Corin adjusted the clamps again. Sparks flew. He held his breath as the first patch latched. The crack stopped seeping energy. A small relief. A minor victory. The dragon shifted. Its tail scraped against floating debris, sending small rocks spinning toward Corin. His thrusters kicked in instinctively, dodging. His hands burned, muscles trembling, but he worked faster. Another patch in place. The hull's hum changed, warmer, calmer, almost approving. He realized the ship and the creature were connected. Fix one and the other reacted. Then movement outside his peripheral sensors. A cloud of scavenger drones burst from the storm's shadow, sleek, metallic, with jagged claws meant to rip and strip alien hulls. Corin's stomach sank. He had no weapons, only tools. Panic tried to claw him down, but he ignored it. He had to protect the ship. He jammed a welding rod into one drone's energy intake, sending sparks into its circuits. It spiraled away, smoking. Small victory. Another drone came, faster. The dragon hissed, a vibration that shook Corin through the suit. He ducked, twisting over the hull, and shoved a clamp into its path. Sparks ignited. The drone screeched, crashing into a piece of floating debris. His eyes met the dragon's blindfolded head. He sensed acknowledgement. Relief flickered. Maybe he wasn't just a mechanic here. Maybe, for a moment, he was someone it could trust. But the storm wasn't done. A chunk of asteroid slammed against the ship's bow, jarring the hull. The repaired patches groaned. Corin's heart jumped. One more hit like that and everything could go wrong. The dragon's massive wings unfurled suddenly, forcing a blast of energy that flung the debris aside. Corin gritted his teeth, holding on, adrenaline burning every nerve. And then the unthinkable happened. The dragon leaned closer, almost deliberately, and lifted its blindfold. Its eyes were luminescent, piercing, and intelligent in a way that froze Corin in place. He understood instinctively, this wasn't just a creature and this wasn't just a ship. Every action he had taken so far had been observed. Judge. A shiver ran down his spine. In the stillness after the storm's chaos, he realized the truth. He hadn't just stumbled upon a wreck. He had stumbled into a test, and the next moment could decide whether he lived or whether he became part of a fate far larger than he could imagine. The ship's hum intensified, and the dragon's gaze never left him. Sparks, debris, and the storm were still around, but Corrin's mind focused on a single question. What does it want from me? Corrin's hands ached from the last patch, but the storm hadn't loosened its grip. Sparks continued to flicker from fractures he hadn't fully sealed, and debris spun around him like a deadly carousel. He glanced at the dragon, her massive wings now stretched halfway, hovering with tense precision. Every tilt of her head, every subtle hum from the ship beneath his hands, told him she was watching, judging. The ship shivered beneath him, not from the storm but from some pulse deep inside it. Corrin's eyes widened. The panels along the hull glowed in rhythm with the vibrations. It was as if the ship itself were alive. He pressed his palm again. Warmth radiated into his suit. The pulse grew stronger, a kind of heartbeat syncing with his own. He swallowed hard. Okay, think, Corrin, he muttered under his breath. It's responding. That's good. That's something. He moved along the hull, placing another patch over a fissure that had begun to spark dangerously. The metal hissed under the weld, and for a moment, the ship groaned like a living creature in pain. Corrin froze. The dragon hissed softly, almost like a warning. He realized with a jolt, the creature and the ship were connected. If one was harmed, the other would feel it. A surge of respect and fear coursed through him. Then a new threat arrived. From the shadowed edges of the storm, sleek scavenger drones emerged. They were small but vicious, armed with tearing claws and cutting lasers. Corrin's stomach sank. No way I can fight all of them, he muttered. But he couldn't run. The ship's integrity and perhaps the dragon's life depended on him staying. He gripped a welding rod and jammed it into the path of the first drone. Sparks erupted as its circuits shorted. The drone flailed, spinning into the debris. Another drone dove toward him. Corrin ducked instinctively, rolling across the hull, and shoved a magnetic clamp into its trajectory. The drone hit it, sparking and smoking. Small victories, but the swarm wasn't slowing. The dragon hissed louder this time, the vibration reaching Corrin through the suit. He shivered. For a moment he understood. She wasn't just a passive observer. Her presence amplified the stakes. If he failed, she would pay a price too. That thought ignited a determination inside him stronger than fear. He took a deep breath, adjusting his suit thrusters. I can do this. I have to do this, he said aloud, though no one but the dragon could hear. Corrin improvised. He rigged a magnetic tether to one of the drones, yanking it into the path of another. Sparks flew. One drone collided with the ship's hull, momentarily tipping him sideways, but the patch held. He exhaled sharply. Mini payoff. He was keeping them off for now. Another pulse from the ship ran up his arm. He froze. This one was different, more urgent, more insistent. The dragon's tail swished, sweeping floating debris into a defensive wall around them. Corrin realized she trusted him. Not fully, perhaps, but enough to let him act. The ship seemed to hum with life, responsive to both human ingenuity and dragon presence. He had never felt such a strange, tense connection. Corrin's mind raced. He couldn't just block drones, he had to stabilize the energy core, or the hull would rupture anyway. Reaching into a small panel, he accessed the ship's surface conduits. Symbols glowed beneath his fingertips, alien, complex, almost musical. He studied the patterns, intuitively aligning energy flows. Each adjustment sent shivers up his arms, and sparks shot across his gloves. It was painful, exhausting, but it worked. The ship's pulsing eased slightly. Another mini payoff. The drones weren't done. A swarm of 3 approached, faster this time. Corrin felt the tension tighten in his chest. He grabbed a flexible rod and slashed at one, deflecting its laser. It spiraled into the storm, destroyed. Another aimed directly at him. He twisted, latching a magnetic clamp on its side. Sparks flew and it hit another drone, taking both down. His arms burned. His suit alarms were blaring low oxygen warnings. But he had managed it. He had bought himself time. Then came the worst part. The hull groaned as a chunk of debris slammed against the ship's flank. The repaired panels shivered dangerously. Corrin's heart jumped. One more strike and the energy core could cascade. He pressed both palms against the hull, focusing, feeling the ship's pulse through his gloves. It shivered beneath him, then settled. Relief hit him, but only briefly. The dragon leaned closer, almost imperceptibly. Her blindfolded eyes, or perhaps what had been a blindfold, tilted toward him. For a moment, the storm faded in his awareness. It was as if she were testing him, measuring his skill, his courage, and his empathy. Corin's mind snapped to clarity. This isn't just about fixing a ship. This is about proving he's worthy. A new vibration ran through the hull, faster this time, almost like a warning. Corin's stomach dropped. The energy core flickered. Another pulse stronger. Something deep inside the ship stirred. He realized with sudden dread, stabilizing the hull had been only the first test. Whatever lay within this ship, whatever this dragon was, had far greater expectations. And then, something impossible happened. The dragon let out a low roar that vibrated through the hull and the void itself. Sparks flew from nearby debris as if reality itself shuddered. The drones scattered in panic. Corin clung to the hull wide-eyed. He had survived, yes, but this was bigger than he imagined. The dragon wasn't just guarding the ship. She was alive, powerful, and somehow linked to its very heart. Corin exhaled shakily, staring up at her massive form. He had stabilized part of the ship. He had fought off the drones. And for a moment he thought he understood. This wasn't luck. This was a test. Every decision, every action, every spark he had created mattered more than he knew. Then the ship pulsed again, stronger, brighter, and the dragon leaned closer, whispering in a language only his mind could feel. Do you truly understand what you are touching? Corin froze. He had survived the storm. He had beaten the drones. He had stabilized the ship. But now, a new question burned through him. What have I really gotten myself into? Corin's chest heaved. The dragon's pulse hummed through the hull, stronger now, almost insistent. Sparks had stopped, debris cleared, drones gone, but nothing about this situation felt safe. The storm was fading, but the air in his suit felt tighter, heavier, as if anticipation itself pressed on him. He had stabilized the ship, but the dragon's presence made every movement feel like a test. He floated closer to the central hatch, the panels beneath his hands glowing with patterns he barely understood. They shifted in response to his touch, light spreading like liquid fire across the hull. The dragon's low vibration hummed in his mind, neither threatening nor welcoming but demanding. Corin swallowed hard. I need to see inside, he muttered. I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Reaching the hatch, he found it partially sealed by what looked like organic plating. His fingers traced the lines, searching for a weak point. The plating pulsed under his touch, and the dragon's vibrations intensified. He felt it like a heartbeat syncing with his own, hesitant, cautious, judging. Summoning courage, he pressed a panel in a sequence that felt right. A section slid aside, revealing a narrow passage into the ship. Inside, the corridors were unlike anything human technology produced. Smooth, glowing walls curved around him. Light pulsed in rhythm with his steps. Corin's mind raced. He had repaired hull cracks, fought drones, and stabilized energy conduits, but this interior felt alive. It breathed. He could almost feel it thinking, sensing, assessing. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the glowing panels. Then he saw it. Holographic projections flickered to life before him, floating in the air like liquid glass. Images of dragons, like the one outside, flashed. Maps, fleets, colonies. And at the center of it all was a single dragon in a commanding posture, her blindfold lifted. Corin's eyes widened. She wasn't just anyone. She was royalty, a leader. And somehow this ship, this living vessel, was a repository of her civilization's secrets, her plans, her history. His stomach sank. I'm not just fixing a ship, he whispered to himself. I'm holding a part of their world in my hands. Panic and awe collided in his chest. He glanced at the dragon hovering near the hatch, wings partially unfurled, eyes, or what he thought were eyes, piercing through the dim light. She was watching him more closely than ever, judging him. A sudden alarm blared through the hull. Energy cores had shifted. Corin's stomach dropped. If the cores destabilized, the ship could collapse entirely. He moved quickly, deciphering alien symbols, rerouting energy flows, improvising connections with welding rods and clamps like extensions of his own hands. Sweat pooled beneath his helmet. Sparks danced across his gloves. The ship's hum grew louder, higher, almost like a warning, prove yourself now or fail. As he worked, the dragon's telepathic presence deepened. This time it wasn't words but emotion, curiosity, skepticism, and something like expectation. He understood. She had been blindfolded not because she lacked sight, but because she was reading him, testing him. Every decision, every movement, every instinct had been observed. His courage, empathy, and intelligence were under scrutiny. Corin exhaled sharply. He had repaired energy conduits, fought off drones, and navigated a living ship's systems in real time. Yet he realized with a jolt, this wasn't enough. The holograms began to shift, showing simulations of war, betrayal, and diplomacy. He could see the weight of responsibility in the dragon's gaze, or rather, feel it. He wasn't just judged on skill but on morality. Could he be trusted with knowledge that could tip the balance of entire colonies? He had no time to ponder. Another pulse, more urgent. A corridor ahead began to shimmer violently, energy unstable, threatening to collapse. Corrin darted forward, improvising a bypass, rerouting conduits manually. Sparks flared around him and a small panel exploded, sending him tumbling back. Pain flared in his arm, but he clenched his teeth and pushed on. The core stabilized, glowing steadily once more. Mini payoff. He had succeeded. The dragon's hum shifted. It was no longer merely judging. It resonated with something close to acknowledgement. She hovered nearer, wings brushing the hull, eyes, or whatever they were, piercing him in silence. Corrin felt a strange weight lift. For the first time he sensed not just danger but trust. But then the hologram shifted again, faster this time. Corrin froze. The dragon's telepathic pulse sharpened, insistent. He realized, with dawning horror and fascination, that this was a test of more than courage. It was a test of understanding. Could he grasp not just mechanics but intent? Could he intuit the needs of a civilization, the ethics of power, the consequences of small actions? The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside this ship, inside this dragon's mind. He moved forward carefully, touching another console. A sudden surge threw him against the wall. Sparks shot from the floor and he felt heat brush his suit. Yet the ship stabilized again. Corrin realized, the pulses, the alarms, the energy shifts, they were reactions, not threats. They were feedback. He was learning, adjusting, responding. Every mistake could be fatal, but every correct move earned him insight. And then, finally, the blindfold lifted completely. The dragon's eyes glowed faintly, and her gaze met his fully. No words, only a question vibrating in his mind. Do you understand the weight of what you hold? Corrin's pulse raced. He had faced storms, drones, failing hulls, and alien systems. He had survived, he had adapted, he had proven courage and ingenuity. Yet now, in the dragon's gaze, he understood the stakes had grown far beyond survival. One wrong choice could doom him, or countless others. And still he had to act. The ship pulsed again, brighter, the hum resonating through his body. Corrin knew instinctively that this was the moment that would define him. Not just as a mechanic, not just as a human, but as a being capable of standing before a civilization far older, far wiser, and far more powerful than himself, and proving he could be trusted. The storm had passed outside, but inside, in the heart of the ship and in the eyes of the dragon, the real trial was only beginning. Corrin's breath came fast, echoing inside the helmet. The ship pulsed beneath him like a living heartbeat, faster now, anxious, straining. The dragon hovered near, wings extended, her massive form radiating power. He could feel her judgment pressing down on him, sharp as any weapon. Every spark, every touch, every improvised connection had led to this moment. One wrong move now and the ship, or he, could be destroyed. He scanned the energy conduits again. The central core was unstable. Small fractures were sending microplasma bolts into the hull. A single hit could cascade into a full core failure. Corrin clenched his teeth and touched the surface, feeling the vibrations race up his arm. This was no ordinary repair. This was a battle against the living intelligence of a ship, against forces he barely understood, and against time itself. The storm outside had cleared, but a new danger emerged. A second wave of scavenger drones, faster and more aggressive than before, swooped from the dark edges of orbit. They had learned from the first encounter, predicting his movements, aiming directly for the vulnerable panels he had just stabilized. Corrin's stomach tightened. He had to act, and fast. He seized a flexible rod, jamming it into the path of the first drone. Sparks erupted, and it spun off into the void. Another drone dove at him from above. Corrin twisted midair, barely dodging a laser strike. With a quick, desperate motion, he latched a magnetic clamp onto its hull, sending it careening into debris. Mini payoff. He had bought precious seconds, but more drones followed. He realized brute force wasn't enough. He had to be smarter. Corrin's gaze flicked to the ship's interface, glowing with organic patterns. He had no training for this, but instinct took over. He reached out and pressed several panels in sequence, rerouting energy to reinforce weak conduits. Sparks shot across his gloves. He could feel the pulse of the ship sync with his heartbeat, responding, cooperating. The living craft seemed to trust him, but only partially. One misstep and the feedback would fry his suit. A sudden surge of plasma knocked him sideways. Pain flared in his arm and his helmet sensors beeped rapidly. Corrin gritted his teeth, dragging himself back to the main hull. He realized with sudden clarity, he couldn't just repair the ship from the outside. He had to link himself to it, become part of its system. The dragon's gaze sharpened, wings flexing as if warning him. He knew what she expected. He gritted his teeth and activated a suit override, connecting his neural interface to the ship's main core. Energy pulsed through him, searing yet thrilling, every sense amplified. Sparks danced across the hull, and the ship's hum grew deafening. Corrin felt the living vessel shudder beneath him, testing his resolve. Every conduit he touched responded instantly, every vibration echoing in his mind. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was part of this living ship's defense. The drones attacked again, a synchronized strike. Corrin reacted instinctively, diverting power to the hull's reactive fields. Plasma arcs leaped from panels, frying drones midair. Sparks flew and the dragon roared, a sound that reverberated through the vacuum and through Corrin's very chest. The roar was more than force, it was a surge of energy that scattered debris and drones alike. Corrin felt the immense strength of this creature, and the bond forming between them. But the core still faltered. Corrin's vision blurred from the feedback surging through his suit. His arms ached. Sweat, or something like it in the zero-gravity suit, ran down his face. He pressed onward, rerouting conduits, stabilizing energy flows, improvising circuits in real time. His hands shook, yet he refused to stop. One deep breath, one small adjustment at a time, and the ship pulsed more steadily. Mini payoff. He had gained ground, but the storm inside the ship was not yet over. Suddenly, a massive section of the hull groaned violently, threatening to tear free. Corrin acted on instinct, grappling with the fracture, welding and clamping in one fluid motion. Sparks showered him. Pain lanced his side as a plasma bolt grazed the suit, but he held on. The dragon hovered near, wings vibrating, energy radiating around them both. She wasn't just observing, she was participating, lending subtle power to stabilize the vessel. Corrin felt something shift, a pulse unlike any before resonating deep within the core. The ship's hum aligned with his heartbeat. He understood instinctively, the living vessel trusted him. It allowed him to channel his courage, intelligence, and empathy into its systems. One final adjustment, one final breath, and the central core's energy stabilized, glowing steadily, warm and alive. Small sparks flickered, then stopped. Relief surged, though exhaustion weighed on him like gravity. The dragon descended slowly, wings folding around the ship. Her eyes, fully revealed now, met his. Luminescent, intelligent, piercing. He understood without words. She had judged him and he had passed. Not perfectly but enough. Courage, quick thinking and moral instinct had carried him through. For the first time, Corrin exhaled fully, feeling the weight of accomplishment, and the relief that he was alive. Then she spoke, inside his mind, clear and resonant. "You are rare among your kind. Few would survive this trial." Corrin's chest tightened. Trust, acknowledgement, approval, they were more precious than victory. But before he could respond, the ship pulsed again, this time differently. Symbols flickered across panels he hadn't touched. A new map, a new projection appeared. Fleets moving, colonies at risk, threats he couldn't yet understand. Corrin's eyes widened. The trial was over, but the mission was only beginning. He had proven himself worthy to the dragon, yet the larger challenge awaited, protecting what he now knew and making choices that could shape entire worlds. His heart raced. One glance at the dragon told him the next step would be even harder. He took a deep breath. One hand on the hull, one still linked to the core, he whispered, "I'm ready." And the dragon's gaze softened slightly, though the glow in her eyes hinted at dangers to come. The living ship thrummed beneath them, alive and patient, as if waiting for Corrin to prove that he was more than just human. He was a force the universe had not yet reckoned with. Corrin floated above the central hull, chest heaving, limbs trembling. The living ship pulsed beneath him, calm now, stable, almost content. The dragon hovered beside him, her wings folded gracefully, eyes glowing with intelligence that pierced through him. For the first time he felt a strange weight lift, the tension of survival, the pressure of judgment. He had succeeded. He had proven his courage, his skill, and his empathy. But relief was short-lived. The ship's panels flickered and new holographic maps appeared, showing fleets moving in patterns he didn't recognize. Energy markers pulsed around colonies, each a dot of potential life or destruction. Corrin's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a ship. It was a vault of civilizations, histories, and strategies. And now he held it in his hands. One wrong choice, one delayed reaction could ripple across worlds. He glanced at the dragon. She hovered silently, her gaze fixed on him, a living mirror of judgment and trust combined. Her voice pulsed in his mind, not words but meaning. The fate of many rests with you now. Are you ready to carry it? Corrin swallowed hard. He had faced storms, drone attacks, plasma surges, and impossible repairs. But this was different. This was responsibility on a scale he had never imagined. His fingers brushed over the glowing control panels, routing power carefully, intuitively. Every adjustment seemed to harmonize with the ship, a dance between human ingenuity and alien design. He realized with awe, the living vessel trusted him. The dragon let out a low hum vibrating through his suit, and it felt like encouragement. Corrin moved deeper into the ship's core. Holographic archives opened automatically, showing records of past commanders, battles, diplomacy, and betrayals. The dragon species had survived millennia through intelligence and careful judgment. And now, somehow, this human, this fragile, unarmed mechanic, was part of that continuum. He paused at a control interface. Symbols danced before his eyes, alien yet logical. He traced conduits with trembling hands, stabilizing energy fields around the colonies marked in red. Sparks of plasma threatened to arc, but Corrin's instincts held. He rerouted power, using patterns the ship almost whispered to him. Another mini payoff. Systems steadied, energy flowed, potential catastrophe avoided. He felt pride, but it was fleeting. He knew this was only a beginning. The dragon shifted closer. For the first time, her blindfold was fully gone. Her luminescent eyes met his, and he felt a pulse of understanding and approval. You have passed my judgment, her mind spoke. Few of your kind would survive this test, let alone understand what it demands. You are rare. Corrin exhaled, a wave of relief flooding him. He had faced death, fought impossible odds, and proved humans could rise to challenges beyond comprehension. He realized something profound. Courage, intelligence, and empathy were not just traits, they were tools to shape destiny. Humans could matter on scales even dragons had once doubted. But just as his pulse began to steady, a warning flashed in the ship's systems. Sensors detected incoming vessels, a fleet moving fast, engines burning, unidentified but clearly hostile. Corrin's heart sank. He had stabilized the ship, earned the dragon's trust, and safeguarded the colonies for now, but new dangers loomed far beyond anything he had faced. The dragon's voice rippled through him again, calm but urgent. This is only the beginning. Your choices will determine the future. Are you ready to act when the time comes? Corrin nodded, though his voice caught in his throat. I'll do what it takes, he replied aloud, feeling both small and powerful at once. He moved to a central console, observing the fleet's approach. His mind raced, calculating options with human ingenuity: divert power, create decoys, use the ship's semi-sentient systems to anticipate maneuvers. The dragon hovered nearby, wings tensing, energy pulsing in tandem with the ship and his own heartbeat. Together, human and dragon formed a living partnership, one built on trust, skill, and courage. A sudden pulse from the ship startled him. Holographic projections shifted, revealing signals from distant sectors, colonies at risk, fleets he hadn't even considered. Corrin's stomach tightened. He realized with awe and dread, this living vessel had more secrets than he could yet comprehend. The responsibility was immense, but he felt ready. For the first time he knew humans could rise to meet impossible odds. The dragon tilted her massive head, eyes glowing with quiet approval. Corrin understood instinctively, she had judged him not just for his skill, but for his heart, his ingenuity, his ability to care when faced with impossible stakes. Humans could shine. They could matter. And now, in this vast universe, he held proof of it. He straightened, fingers brushing the interface, energy flowing through him. We'll protect them, he said, voice firm, confident. All of them. The dragon's wings flexed, and a pulse of energy radiated through the ship. Corrin felt strength, not just his own but something greater, flowing in harmony with him. Then, in the calm after the storm and the judgment, a new blip appeared on the holographic map. Another fleet, farther away, moving faster than the eye could track, signals encrypted, unknown intent. The dragon's hum shifted, warning but intrigued. Corrin's mind raced. This was only the beginning. Bigger threats, larger mysteries awaited. And he would have to rise again as the human who dared to face them. He exhaled, heart pounding, a mixture of fear, excitement, and resolve coursing through him. The dragon's gaze held his, and together they looked toward the unknown. The stars stretched before them, infinite and full of challenge. Corrin understood now, humans were more than survival instinct. They were courage, ingenuity, and the spark that could change the fate of worlds. And somewhere beyond the nearest star system, something waited. Something bigger. Something that would test both human and dragon together.